Hello guys and welcome to another video. Before we get started with it, I want to say the next. I am not a financial planner nor a financial advisor. I am not FCA approved. I'm not approved by any institution that allows me to give financial nor investment advices. Nothing mentioned in this video should be considered investment advice or guidance. Everything shown, talked, and explained is for pure and only educational purposes. The risk is on your own hands. Enjoy. Okay, since I don't want to do the resume of basically 2 weeks ago, I'm gonna be doing them by video. And this was the back testing. Yeah. So begin with 26/7, 26th of July. I think this was the day where we had really crazy price action. Not crazy bad, crazy good. There are a couple of things that are kind of wrong here. I think I should have left the other ones. So, okay. So here, this is a pretty good sell. This is a sell that, based on what I'm currently using, is something valid. So we have a demand area, cost of reaction, failed reaction at this point. This is the cause. We enter in 25, 50, whatever, and ends up working out. We could have easily targeted the next demand area, which in this case would have been this, right? Strong area. Could have gone for this, but at the same time, being such a small target, we for sure wanted to go further than that area. Could have gone safer for just a 5R, but in my opinion, I think it would have been okay to go for that. So yeah, we then tap into this area. We do leave what I think there is liquidity. I don't think this week actually exists without replay mode. Yeah, let me lower the volume on this because I'm going crazy here. So we then have a flip. So you can see this is an area of supply that causes a reaction right there, and even another one in this candle that has such a strong wick of rejection. We flip, price comes back to the 50%, works out. We then have a break. As you can see, we do have somewhat of an area also here, right? Price does react well. We have a pause before the break of that, and price came back right away to mitigate it. That's pretty good. We then have a push. Same thing here, right? We have an area of supply. Could have gone for a risk entry in this one, which would have ended up in a loss or a break even if lucky enough. At the same time, we have this now. If we break this area, we have a break in supply. So we will be looking for an entry. And as you can see, the cost to that is basically this whole range that doesn't have liquidity. I mean, it does have liquidity. Oops. We have pretty much this low and this low at this point. But since it's in a escalated way and not somewhat of a equal lows scenario, I don't think I would have got that as liquidity. I would have gone for the whole thing. At the same time, this does look really clean, so that could have been a trade more than this area itself, right? So this trade could have been missed easily, but this is the area that price basically respected and then continued to go higher. So here what happens here? We actually create equal lows, but the area of demand that we're waiting for to work is this. As we do have the cost of the reactions basically within this candle, then this is the demand, right? So price breaks that by very little, but good enough. And the cost of that is this pause that basically works out amazingly, right? We have reaction there, not much. We could have gotten into a loss here. I do think this is a pretty valid trade, right? As we have some really clean equal lows right there, so that could have been a good trade. We would have gone for this on the 25, stop loss above the highs, so would have been 20. Are aiming for 100. Maybe the safe target would have been this area, right? Which would have been a 1 to 3.45, which I'm not sure if I would have gone for, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much it in that case. So we have an area of supply here, right? Price reacts to it. Then we have still holding that, but fails. And this is the cost to that. Price came back to basically mitigate that, right there. Right here we had a flip, although, well, yeah, I wouldn't really consider this a flip, to be honest. So this is not an entry that I would have gone for at this point. Maybe when I was trading this way, definitely could have gone for it, but yeah. So here, So I probably counted this as a flip here, right? A lot of liquidity, that is true. It does hold for a little bit, right? But not good enough, and then we break already up. This is not a flip. This could have been considered a flip, right? As it does react, and then we flip. But we actually don't flip. We do break the reaction, which is considered a failed reaction. But I prefer for price to basically just break that for me to actually go for something. So this L is wrong, right? This L up here kind of does make sense. This one is something that I might go for at this point. But this potential move that we have, right? Probably liquidity or taking the low to take the liquidity, which is what happened actually. Yeah. So have this type of structure, takes the low and then goes higher, which didn't completely hold, but yeah. That's pretty much 26.7. Oops, didn't mean to delete that, I think. Oh, yes. Okay, 27.7. Let's go to the 1 hour. Make sure just let it play out for the whole week. And I'll just analyze price action as it goes. I think I went a little bit way too far. Yeah, kinda. So we reacted to this range before a major break. So if we actually look at this further, what we have is a supply area that is being respected and then fails to hold. So the cost to that is this. Even though we do have liquidity there, this is the cost to flip. So I wouldn't really be that much scared for the for that liquidity that we have down there, to be honest. 27, yes. So basically react to that. We have a change of character here, so it changed from lower lows, lower highs to higher highs, high lows. We do have somewhat of a reaction here, but not at the same time, so I wouldn't have counted this as a flip. It does cause a reaction, but the break is not that strong and the reaction isn't strong either, so not much to do there. So basically price comes back down, have the break of this major area. When I see structure like this, where you have let's suppose this is a structure, right? And you have somewhat of a move like this, it's more likely to go either to this area or this pulse that I drew here, right? React to one of those areas, right? Except it's more likely to go for one of these two areas than the extreme, as the extreme is pretty low in this case. What could happen is that in the short term it reacts to this, right, and even causes another reaction right here, so you can see. But in the future, actually, just comes back to the extreme. Comes back to the extreme right there, and then continues to go higher as a longer term type of trade. In this case, that's not what happened. So yeah. So this is what we begin with. We do have a supply demand area here that worked out great. We have supply all of this area pretty much. We do have some failed reactions, so this could be potential supply, but I don't really like the whole structure that we have around here. We have liquidity there. This is not a supply to demand flip. Oh, actually it is, because we do break that low, so this area is important for the future. We then break down, we have a range, we then major break there. Yeah, well, it's a major break. It's not it is demand that basically caused this reaction on this supply area to fail, right? But as I said earlier, it's not quite something strong enough for me to actually take a trade there. But it is a major break and a break of a potentially important area that will work out great in this case. Could have aimed for the high of this order block, right? Just like this. But yeah, we then get into this area. I don't think I would have taken it just like this. This break, well, could have been a trade, but to be honest, a little bit hard to find, not gonna lie. We do have a reaction here, right? So we then fail to hold that. And if we would have been actively, like really actively, this is our, here. This is our break that happens on this week. So the cost to that would have been this whole pause, right? So our entry would have been pretty much 25, 50, whatever. and stop loss below this low, right? So it would have been probably 35, and we'll target 175, or a logical target such as, well, the liquidity. We could have aimed at the liquidity in this case. Would have been a really good trade in my opinion. Would have been a 1 to 12. It does take a huge amount of time to get there, but yeah. We then get even another reaction right there, so yeah. We could analyze this in detail, but I don't think it'll be worth, because I don't really see any kind of entries, to be honest. So, yeah, not much here. So let's continue with price action. We have a lot of stuff here, so let's see what happened. This, but it didn't cause a reaction. Now we do break this, but yeah, that's already too late. There's not much here, to be honest. Instead of this move, not something I could have actually traded. This is somewhat of a stairs pattern, right, where you go just like this, spot impulsive move, causes this, but it goes down, takes basically this liquidity, and then continues to go higher. So a trade there could have been possible based on results on that, but just a little bit of a risky trade. This sell kind of does make sense due to the liquidity. It does take breaks, change of character basically at this point. Doesn't actually flip or anything, so that's not a trade for me at this point. And yeah, we then break some major structure, not gonna lie. As you can see, we do have a trade here, and that actually happens because we have a supply area right here that is respected by this move, so it causes a small move down. When we break that, we have a break in supply, right? And this is the cause, but it doesn't hold that much, to be honest. So yeah, strong push down, came all the way back down to this whole thing, right? So we have supply there, demand, failed reaction pretty much. The cause is that, so that's a pretty good entry. Going by the 50, we might would have been able to get some profits. But yeah, so this is supply. Price breaks it. We could have counted this as our cause, right? Or this basically as liquidity, which is what ended up happening. I do remember taking this trade. I actually took this trade, this one right here. I think I took a loss here also, or here, not sure. But I do remember taking a loss on the way down. Could have been on this trade also, not gonna lie. So, pretty much we have a change in supply to demand. The cause is kind of this. As I said, could have gone for this or count that as liquidity, but I probably would have gone for this. So it is the pause before the change of supply to demand, and let it just fucks around. So nothing to really do there. Let's continue now to 28th, right? Yes. Okay. Break. No change in supply nor demand here. Had broken everything. We do have some supply areas working out, such as this one, probably that one, this one. So here we do have a change in supply to demand, right? Had this highs that had worked. The cause is kind of that, but it ended up going for the extreme. So going for an entry here, right here, the stop was low would have worked out great. Yeah, it's not that cool, not gonna lie. Probably would have gone for this range, which looks really clean. At the same time, it's actually failed reaction, right? So the cost of a reaction is the extreme. So looking at it that way, it is very possible to actually go for that extreme. But otherwise, I would have gone for the cause, which is this, and would have stopped out because my stop was sort of in here, or maybe as low as this. But I don't think it would have been down on the low. We then get up there. We start. As you can see, we have mitigation after mitigation after mitigation after mitigation, and mitigation here. Well, okay. So where do we flip? We have a supply area here that's basically respected for a bit, and then we break it up. I think the cost would have been the extreme at this point. Kind of getting lost here. So it's a pretty strong area of supply. Pretty much when you have mitigation, and then it doesn't mitigate areas, it's most likely for price to come back into that one that wasn't mitigated, and cause a reaction. Not that it will continue to basically just do something like this, right? It's not that, but sometimes you can see reactions like that because this area holds a big importance, at least the way that I've seen it work out. Even with this one, as an example, you have mitigation, right? And this area was not mitigated. Price came back, caused a reaction, but well, it didn't work, as in this case supply had more strength at this point. We then react to this major area that came from mitigation, right? So that's pretty good. I took this entry where that went out on to our profits. We do have somewhat of supply being respected here, so we do have somewhat of its change, a supply to demand flip. That's something that we could have identified in a way, right? So this trade could have been possible. This trade right here, just this one that we took, it's actually really good again already, so I'm not gonna lie. That's okay. Then we have this demand area working out. We get a flip right there. The cause is this pause, but price didn't pull away that much, so I would have counted this as liquidity and would have gone for maybe this whole thing, which would have worked out great. At the same time, I went for this trade, but with a pretty large stop loss, and it worked out pretty great for a little bit, but as you can see, it then just took me out and break even, as when we had this reaction right here, right, I decided to move my stop loss above that high, because if price actually went above that high, I was not expecting sells to continue to work at this point, right? So could have gone for somewhat of an entry to the buy side at this point, because we basically took liquidity. We had a demand area that had worked, right? And we basically broke above that. So an entry here, or maybe even here, right? Taking the liquidity of that low would have worked out great. Well, it would have actually not worked out, but it's something that I could have quite gone for. We do have somewhat of a reaction right there, and even up there. So this is the cost to that, so that's good. So this already is an entry. This would have been the DCE, the CE, sorry, at this point. And then we have this break, continuation, didn't hold that long though. Okay, so this is our break from supply to demand right here. This is not quite what causes it. It does cause this break right here, which is stronger than this one because it has more mitigation. It has 1 and 2. We have only 1 here, right? So I believe this area has more importance. So this area is the cause to this flip, to this demand break, supply break, not flip, but yeah, not an entry I would have gone for, to be honest. And that's pretty much it, right? Yes. 29. Let me check how XRP is going. Now close to target. Okay. I didn't show the 29th. Okay. Close at 1%. That's good. Close right on below, amazingly. Okay. This is a demand to supply flip, so this is a really good entry right here in the cost to that, but would have ended up in a break even if lucky. We then have a flip here that was caused by this and does get a reaction, but the extreme of course holds more value compared to, well, this. This did work in the short term to get up to this area, and this area ended up just causing price to take all of the liquidity and then continue to go higher, lower, higher. So took liquidity down, took liquidity above, went down, took even more liquidity, and then continued to go higher. Liquidity one way, liquidity the other, and that's pretty much it. All that the market maker needs. So we broke supply at this point. So the cost would have been this. Same time has liquidity, really clean liquidity, so this would have been my area to enter a trade, which ended up being a loss. So it does cause a reaction. So this sell right here would have been a sell for me. Let's see if we actually would have been able to get something out of it. That would have been 20, going for 100 at the very least. Yeah, that would have been a stop loss for sure. Not the whole stop loss, as I would have been my stop loss above there, right? Expecting price to not break that high. But it is what it is. So we break supply. The cause is this area, clearly. Sorry. This area right here does create liquidity below it, so above it, sorry, so that would have been a really good trade. And look at this, we have a supply area, causes a reaction, we have a break, price pulls away, but comes back to the cost of that supply and demand break, basically demand and supply break, and what worked out amazingly. So pretty simple trade. Not many trades this day. Yeah, some that worked out great. 30th, last day of the week. Ooh, okay, let's see it. We probably reacted to something here. Oh, XRP take profit, right? I went the other way, it should have gone. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's good. Let's continue. Here we are. So we were in the 30th, right? Yes. So, oh, 1 minute. Maybe. Right here. So, what we took liquidity, so that's actually really good. It's pretty much a strong confluence. Not sure what this is. Hold on. It's liquidity clearly. Oh, okay. So we have a mitigation block. That's what we had there. Do I have a mitigation block? No, I don't. Mitigation block. Put it to the right, and let's put some spaces on it so it looks better. There you go. So we basically have well, we actually don't have a flip per se there. But we do have a flip here, don't we? No, not really. We don't have a demand to supply flip in this case. We have it down here. Yes, we do, because it does react to that. Yes. Causes a reaction, goes down. This is now liquidity, or well, you could have gone for this, which basically would have ended up in a loss. So we have liquidity there, right here. Price comes back up, mitigates that, and fell. So let's look at the extra confluences. We took liquidity. Took liquidity. We have a mitigation block. Mitigation block goes like this. Fails to create a higher high. Breaks down. This is our mitigation block. Comes back, mitigates that, which is what basically happened here, right? Extra confluence. At the same time, the cost to this supposed flip, right? At this point, I consider it either a break of structure or a major break of structure, right? Not a flip. This I was using the concept wrong at this point. Although it does react to something on the left that caused this move, but it doesn't break anything, so it's not quite a demand area that I consider. So yeah, pretty much. And we had basically the pause confluence with that mitigation block, so that's pretty good entry. If I remember correctly, I did take this, not to the area that I've drawn here, but I do think that I took this, didn't I? I think I did. I don't remember. Let's see this trade on the left. So this came from mitigation again with the concept that we had before. Mitigation. So we had mitigation after mitigation. Now we have another mitigation, and price never actually mitigates this last area, right? Sorry, that counts for mitigation. Sorry, but this area is which it's the one that basically never was mitigated again. So that area holds some value. Not sure if I would have taken it just like this. I don't remember if I actually went for this. I don't have it drawn, but yeah, pretty much a good trade, but I'm not sure if I would have actually taken that. I'm not sure if I remember taking it, to be honest. So we mitigate this pretty good area. We even create a breaker here. Breaker is pretty much this high, low, high. This high was created to basically create liquidity, and price with this high takes that liquidity. Price falls down, and this is the breaker, right? Usually that breaker holds in the short term for price to let you come back and mitigate the QML there, and then continue to go down, pretty much. There. In this case, the breaker does not work, right? It just causes a reaction, as you can see, but then goes higher. But it doesn't get to the QML that was all the way up there, and never does. So let's continue to see what happens. We had a supply demand area here, caused this small break, right? So when we break this is the cause. The pause that we have right there works out great. We then have this supply area, this demand area, that gets broken. The cause is this pause. Could have either identified it as liquidity or gone for that pause. In this case, well, this area took this high, took this liquidity on the left and was about to take this liquidity on the right, took that and fell down. So here we could have gotten a loss, right? So we might have gone for that pause, but I just can't really say for sure, to be honest. We then basically go up, take all of this liquidity, create liquidity towards the extreme that counts for mitigation. This area, well, we could say that it causes all of this move, right? And we come from basically mitigation, and we hadn't mitigated that area yet, and it came back to mitigate it. But we had some other mitigated areas, it's the extreme, this other area, so that's not quite a concept that would have worked out in this case, but we do have a lot of liquidity right there being accumulated just before the entry, so that's a pretty good confluence that we could have used, and in this case it could have worked out amazingly. We did get triggers, just that the replay tool doesn't actually shows the price action a little bit different. It is a major area. I'm not sure if I would have considered it as a supply or something, flip, as we don't actually get much of a reaction unless we actually count this as our area of supply, which it does fairly cause a reaction, and the cost of that break is that. So at that point we might have been able to use it, but not quite enough, to be honest. Oh, well, I do remember taking an entry here. That was basically, I think it was close somewhere around here. We react to this area, right? We do create a high, fails to create a high, so we create a mitigation block, right? That gets mitigated. We even have a confluence here with this pause right there, right? So it's a really good confluence along with the mitigation block. So that's pretty much it. So an extra confluence there, and I'm not sure what I was aiming for at this point. I think it was a 4-hour area or something like that. Let's check it out. Yeah, right there. So the 4 hours, not quite quite a big deal, but it's basically this whole range that we have right there, if I remember correctly at least. Let me actually do the replay all the way there, so it's a little bit simpler for me to see that. Yeah, that was the target. If we check the 1 hour, we did have some other areas that we could have been a little bit more conservative and aim for, right? So just this high, or probably even this high, or just aiming at that low, which would have been already pretty good, or good enough per se. We do have a flip here. Cause could have been considered this, but it ended up even breaking the high, so it's not quite something that that should be put much effort on it, because I do like the extreme because it has liquidity, right? This pretty much relatively equal highs, so it kind of gives that away. But yeah, it's just not quite a beauty. It's not quite a common structure there in the 1 hour. That's pretty much it for this week. Just wanted to do that video, and I think we can delete all these, right? Yes. Okay, that's pretty much it.